Okay, picture this. Your parents probably bought a house in their 30s, right? Your grandparents? Man, probably even earlier. It was just what you did. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking exactly why that totally normal milestone has become incredibly elusive for millions of young, educated, hard-working people.
So it really begs this massive question. Why are houses becoming unaffordable almost everywhere? Because let's be honest, for millions of people right now, buying a home feels way less like a normal financial goal and a whole lot more like winning the lottery. You look at the prices, you look at your salary, and the math just fundamentally does not add up. So what happened here? Is it greedy builders, foreign investors, bad government policies, or is there a much bigger hidden economic story behind all those skyrocketing property prices?
To figure this out, here is our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to systematically break down the fading dream, the supply and demand trap, housing as an asset, the wealth divide, and finally look at, can it be fixed?
All right, let's jump right into part one, the fading dream.
Okay, let's dive into this. Before we get into the heavy economic data, let's just think about what home ownership actually used to mean. In our parents' era, it was literally the ultimate symbol of success. It meant security, stability, a place to build a family. And crucially, it was achievable with hard work. Now, we aren't here to point fingers at a single villain today, but rather to look at how the baseline rules of the entire game have changed. Because today, prices are just exploding, while salaries basically haven't budged. It's an ever-widening gap. So if you're frustrated, hey, your math isn't wrong at all. The entire system shifted.
And listen, if you are feeling this squeeze, you are absolutely not alone. This is a massive global phenomenon. Whether you're looking at markets in Mumbai, Toronto, Sydney, or London, the ratio of median home prices to median incomes has completely shattered historical norms. Across all of these incredibly diverse economies, housing prices have universally outpaced what everyday people are actually earning.
Which brings us to part two, the supply and demand trap.
Now, we all know the basic math of supply and demand, right? But modern urbanization has completely warped it. Think about it. Cities are drawing in millions of people seeking jobs and education, which generates this massive, unrelenting demand. But construction, it's actively failing to keep up. Prime land is basically exhausted in these hubs. Building out the necessary infrastructure takes literally decades, and complex zoning approvals can notoriously drag on for years.
And this brilliantly illustrates the problem if we use India as a prime case study of this exact collision. You've got hypergrowth hubs like Mumbai, Bengaluru, and Gurgaon pulling in millions of migrants every single year. But because of these severe bottlenecks, like limited prime land and incredibly sluggish bureaucratic approvals, developers are naturally pushed toward building premium, high-margin luxury projects. So affordable supply is totally choked off right as demand goes into overdrive. It completely detaches prices from local incomes.
So let's move on to our third section, housing as an asset.
To really understand this massive shift, we have to look back at the 2008 domino effect. After the financial crisis, central banks all over the world slashed interest rates just to stimulate the economy. Essentially, money became incredibly cheap to borrow. But here is the great irony. What started as an attempt to help economies recover accidentally weaponized the housing market. All that cheap money flooded into real estate. Investors entered aggressively, property prices climbed, and an intense, powerful cycle of speculation was born.
And that leads to a pretty brutal reality for the modern market. Today, when a young couple relying on their hard-earned savings puts an offer on a starter home, they aren't just competing against other families anymore. It's literally a David versus Goliath scenario. They're routinely outbid in all-cash offers by massive institutional funds, real estate companies, and global asset managers. For these financial giants, a house isn't a shelter. It's a portfolio asset meant to generate rental yield and solid investment returns.
So the crucial point is this. Here's your aha moment for the whole crisis. Housing has fundamentally transformed from a place to live into a financial product. When shelter is traded, bundled, and optimized for yield exactly like a stock or a bond, the market permanently detaches from normal local wage growth. And that leads us right into Section 4, the wealth divide.
But hey, before we just talk about the buyers, we absolutely have to acknowledge the builders. Building homes today is vastly more expensive than it was a decade ago. We are looking at a compounding cascade of construction inflation. The cost of steel? Up. Cement? Up. Labor costs are soaring. Energy is way more expensive, and transportation fees have spiked. Honestly, even if investor demand magically vanished overnight, this sheer wall of construction inflation alone would continuously push the baseline price of a new home upward.
This creates a really stark tale of two realities. For property owners, rising values mean this effortless passive wealth accumulation. But for renters, the financial treadmill just keeps speeding up. The goalposts literally move further away every single year, no matter how hard they save. Neutrally speaking here, housing is no longer just about shelter. It is currently the single biggest driver of wealth inequality globally.
And there is a severe real-world consequence to all this. It's the hidden cost of urban success, which is a fascinating, almost tragic paradox. Successful cities attract massive companies and high-paying jobs, which drives up prices. But eventually, the very people needed to keep the city running are priced out completely. You end up with this supreme irony where the nurses staffing the hospitals, the teachers in the schools, and even the construction workers building the new luxury condos have to commute 2 hours each way just to serve a city they're effectively zoned out of living in.
Which brings us to our final section. Can it be fixed?
Let's move to and see how this builds. Because the good news is, there actually are pragmatic paths forward. Governments can start by streamlining those notoriously slow, bureaucratic approval processes. They can vastly expand public transit networks, making life beyond crowded urban centers actually viable, and offer targeted incentives to make affordable housing highly profitable for builders. We can also leverage new building technologies to finally start bringing down those soaring construction costs.
But we really have to firmly ground our expectations here. None of these solutions are easy, and most take years to produce visible results. Building a new subway line or completely overhauling entrenched zoning laws doesn't just happen overnight. And that is exactly why housing affordability remains one of the most stubborn, politically charged economic issues worldwide. There simply is no quick fix.
So, to sum up everything we've covered in this explainer, we are essentially looking at the perfect storm. This crisis isn't happening because of one single reason. It's the violent collision of rapid urbanization, an era of ultra-cheap money, and rampant construction inflation. You throw in population growth, massive investor demand, restricted supply, and growing wealth inequality, and you can clearly see how these distinct forces collided to transform a basic human necessity into one of the most expensive asset classes in the modern economy.
The question is no longer whether houses are expensive. I mean, we know they are. The real question is this: will future generations ever be able to afford the same dream their parents did? Because for millions around the world, that dream is drifting further away every single year. So I want to pass this over to you. I'd absolutely love for you to share in the comments what force you think is the biggest driver of unaffordability in your area. Is it investors, population growth, or something else entirely? Let us know. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the forces shaping our world.